When EA announced they were making another Star Wars game, at first I was like,
oh shit, here we go again.
but then they said it'll be made by Respawn, and I was like,
This is gonna be a good game.
and then they said Jedi Fallen Order will be a story-driven, single-player game with Jedi combat, and then I was like, after all, this is the same studio that cancelled a single-player Star Wars project and famously said that single-player games aren't as popular as they used to be. So obviously, when EA says it's going to make a Star Wars game with no multiplayer and microtransaction bullshit, it's hard to not be excited. But when I finally finished Jedi Fallen Order, my reaction was more or less,
Hooray! Question mark?
as fun as the game is, for some reason it doesn't create the same excitement for me as the older Star Wars titles.
But wait!
Before I dive into it, let me make it clear that this isn't going to be a critical review of Jedi Fallen Order. Mainly because ideally reviews should be objective, but as humans our views and opinions are shaped by personal experiences, and as such true objectivity doesn't really exist, and the entire concept of an objective review is an illusion.
You get it all out of your system?
With that out of the way, let's talk about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, or as I like to call it, Raider of the Uncharted Tombs, a Star Wars game. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about Jedi Fallen Order is how much it reminds me of other games. There's Uncharted-like movement mixed with some Tomb Raider-style puzzles, with a drizzle of God of War-style combat, Metroidvania-inspired exploration, and a slight hint of Souls-like stuff. On paper, it would seem like these ingredients would make a tasty dish, but as a certain someone said,
Reality is often disappointing.
while Jedi Fallen Order does a good job of implementing these aspects, it doesn't really try to do anything different that would set it apart from a game that I haven't played in the last year. Honestly, it just feels like EA made a list of all the games that the cool kids play these days, took a bunch of stuff from all of them, slapped the Star Wars sticker on it and called it a day. Now, don't get me wrong, Jedi Fallen Order isn't a bad game per se. It has a nice, simple story, a decent mix and match between lightsaber combat and force abilities, and the world is well thought and fleshed out. Let's talk about the story first.
Get on with it.
Yes! Get on with it!
After Palpatine ordered a number 66 with deep-fried Jedi on the side, the council was wiped out and remaining Jedi went into hiding. Jump to present day, Harry Styles has left One Direction and is now one of the last few Jedi alive. Now, it's up to him, Lady Frog Eyes and Yoda's long-lost uncle to re-establish the Jedi Order. With the help of the most adorable droid ever, they set out to find a holocron with info about the ones that Coppa wants to protect, who have an affinity towards the Force. Then shit goes down, the Empire takes the holocron and our band of heroes has to fight them to get it back. But weirdly enough, the game ends with them destroying the said holocron.
NANI?
Yep, it's like, let's say you decide to have a baby with your wife, and once your wife gets pregnant, you realize how big of a responsibility it's going to be and you're like,
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
seriously, why did we do all that? Especially considering that the Empire would have never gotten their hands on the holocron if Calvin and the knobheads hadn't been looking for it in the first place. I'm not kidding, even the game acknowledges that. The same goes for lightsaber customization. You'll find sleeves, switches and emitters scattered all across different planets. But here's the thing, all these parts are something you'll never get to see while using the lightsaber in the game because they're covered by your hands. The only part of the saber that you can see, which is the actual blade, is also the one that's the most limited in terms of customization. There are 8 colors in total and you're limited to 2 for the majority of the game and 3 if you pre-order.
But why?
In contrast, here's how an older game like The Force Unleashed handled saber customization. You would find 2 kinds of crystals, a power crystal that would add an effect to the saber like extra damage, and the color crystal which would change the actual color of the saber. And each color crystal had 3 variants, normal, compressed and unstable, each of which looks slightly different from the other. Now that makes a lot more sense to me. But then again, I also think Joker is one of the happiest movies I've seen in a long time, so maybe it's just me. In other words, that said, the game does have double-sided lightsabers and dual wielding, and once you unlock the corresponding force ability, you can switch between them mid-combat and spice things up. Melee combat as a whole doesn't feel very satisfying, but between the different saber styles and force abilities, there's a pretty good variety of playstyles. What's not good, however, is the lack of boss fights. Most of the side bosses are a drag, and some are just plain frustrating. When the bounty hunter shows up for the first time and captures you, I was like, but every single time after that,
You gotta be kidding me.
Oh my God in heaven.
Are you fracking kidding me right now?
Why does this keep happening?
butts and peaches, sticks and leeches, I don't want to be so damn negative. Like I said, Jedi Fallen Order is overall a good game, and exploration in this game is extremely rewarding. I was able to get the double-sided lightsaber on the first planet right after unlocking the splice upgrade. That's way before the story lets you do it, and the game has a lot more going for it. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that Jedi Fallen Order is the best Star Wars game EA has made. Let me put it this way. If before Jedi Fallen Order anyone had asked me about my views on EA, I would have said,
All I have are negative thoughts.
but now I have to admit,
Wait a minute!
who am I kidding? They'll probably make a couple more games like this and then cry that single player games don't make as much money as live service games and then go back to pushing FIFA down everyone's throats.
Damn it, woman, pull yourself together!
Okay, I don't think my subconscious wants to think anything good about EA, so I guess it's time to end the video. And as I can't think of a decent way to do that, I also realized that this video itself doesn't have much of a point. Then again, if that's not the nature of life, what is?
That was deep and total BS.